Hi, Kathy here, and I wanted to share some information about my new digital newsletter, Your Path to Career Bliss. This monthly newsletter explores one key career, leadership, or personal growth topic that is essential for building a happier, more successful career or business. Every issue offers a selection of the most read articles that I've ever written, along with riveting podcast interviews with some of the nation's top experts, as well as career assessments, resource recommendations, a subscriber highlight section, and an Ask Kathy column, and more. We've made it as affordable as possible with 2 tiers to choose from, and the first month is completely free, and you can cancel at any time. I hope you'll join me in this program now. Check it out at kathycaprino.com/newsletter and get your free issue today. Thank you, and here's to your path to career bliss. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Finding Brave. Once again, I say this every week, but truly, I am buzzing. I am so excited to speak to our guest today. And, I've interviewed a lot of people, Pulitzer Prize winners, top leaders, and I have to say, someone who's done what you've done in the way that you've done it is so deeply inspiring to me, Siobhan. I really can't tell you. So
Kathy,
inspired.
So nice. I'm so humbled. When you said Pulitzer, I almost turned off the Zoom.
Let me go read another book before I go. No. Oh, I love it. I love it. And I think listeners know I'm a singer on the side and was married for many years to a renowned jazz percussionist. Really? So I want to dig in, and here we are talking without me even introducing Siobhan, which I will, but living the world of an entertainer or a performer or a true artist, I kind of want to start there because I think so many people envy it, but don't really understand the realities of it.
Right.
Is that right? So can we start there? But
we can, absolutely.
Wonderful. Before we do, people, let me introduce you to the amazing Siobhan Fallon Hogan. I'm going to read your bio for a minute because it's so illustrious. I want people to understand. Here we go. For 30 years, Siobhan Fallon Hogan has been one of the most iconic and recognizable working character actresses, appearing in blockbuster comedies like Men in Black, and as frequently as in independent films like Dancer in the Dark and Dogville. Now, for the first time, Siobhan is appearing in a lead role, starring as the tortured yet deeply relatable and often funny, so true, matriarch in the thriller Rushed, which she wrote and produced. Wow. Siobhan's first role was in Golden Girls. Oh, what a gift, huh? And she appeared in, or has been featured in, many roles in Saturday Night Live, Seinfeld, Forrest Gump, and so many more TV shows and films. Rushed, which I just dug into, which is a movie you really don't want to miss, features Siobhan's friends and family, your actual friends and family, in her hometown of Rumson, New Jersey, and serves as a capstone to one of the most unsung careers in Hollywood. For decades, the talents of character actresses like Siobhan have gone overlooked, which is really true, I believe, which is in part why she decided to write and produce this female-directed and casted and edited film. I'm not going to read the description of the movie because we're going to talk in depth about it, but thank you again. Welcome to
Thank you so much, Kathy. I appreciate it.
All right. I'm going to go with, as you know, I love to run these like you're over for a drink or a coffee. We just did a Forbes interview, which we've linked to below. You can read that. I wouldn't miss it. And in looking at other interviews you've done, you talk about your childhood and yes, the humor that you were surrounded with, I think particularly by your very larger than life father, it seems.
Yes.
I literally laughed out loud what he had you do, as an elf when you're 5 years old. Can you, I'm a former therapist as well as a former corporate.
You could have a field day with my family.
I think so. But every family we could have a field day, of course. But immediately when I was really studying your career, I was wondering, where did you get, first of all, this incredible sense of humor and your drive and your confidence? Can we just start there from childhood?
Sure.
Can I hear a little?
I was really, really fortunate because I came from this big Irish Catholic family, and my dad was hilarious. And looking back, you know, as my life went on and I had no skills, I had to work in mature places like law firms. My father was a lawyer, but he was such a kid always. Like he always had a fabulous, fabulous sense of humor and never acted. He was never really matured, but he was responsible and a great father, but he was a kid at heart.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
like I said in the interview with Forbes, your interview, that, when I was a kid, it was Christmas time. And he's like, all right, Shivani. And I was like 5 years old. You are going to dress as an elf and we are going to deliver to people who can't make it to the North Pole. And I believed him. I was like, okay, let's do it. So he and my uncle David Sullivan would drive me around the neighborhoods. And I remember there was this woman, Mrs. Mooney, and she was in her 80s. And I was like, hello, I'm Santa's elf. And she's like, come in, Elfie. And I was like, yeah, the things are going to the North Pole. And I would act this till then I felt sorry for her that she believed me. And I was like, I have to tell you something. I'm not really an elf. I'm Siobhan Fallon. And then
what did she say?
She would laugh and go, she'd say, really, are you? And I believed it too, that she didn't believe me. And I was like, no, I'm really not. So crazy things like that always happened.
And this was upstate New York you grew up.
Upstate New York. I was from Syracuse originally. My father was one of 11, so I had a million cousins, tons of family. We were, there was no internet, there was no TV. So they really held storytelling and humor above anything else. And my mother would be like, don't be looking in the mirror too much at yourself. You should be other directed, help other people, and worry about developing yourself. I have a couple of sisters who are really stunning, one of which should definitely have been a model. And I was like, Megan should be a model. And my mother and father were like, that's ridiculous. You got to develop yourself. You can't be walking around. You can't be walking around and people look at you. But on the other hand, I was kind of odd looking.
Now, what do you mean? I read that. And
oh my God,
you're beautiful.
I looked like a dandelion. I was like really, really, really skinny with gigantic red hair. And this is crazy detail, but in high school I had a big wart on my knee. And I was like, what is going on? I've kind of like bad luck. What's that doing there in addition to my other problems? And I remember saying to my mother, oh my gosh, none of the boys like me. I can't even get a date like to the prom. Like I had to ask my date to the prom, which is hideous.
I've done it too.
My mother was like, and Miss New York State lived in my town. She still does. And I was like, Mom, Mary Pat Donaldson is gorgeous. My mother's like, Siobhan, you're as pretty as she is. You're a different kind of pretty. I was like, I am? Oh,
you are. She's so right.
But the combination, I believed what my parents told me, and they just built such confidence that when it came time to get in this crazy business, when people would knock me, I'd be like, oh, what's wrong with you? You got a problem? You're wrong. I'm right. You know what I mean? And I just had this faith, not only in my parents, but in God, that I could do what I wanted to do.
My gosh. So just for the audience and for me, what I'm really curious about is their upbringing, your parents.
Oh.
I mean, one thing I'll share, I adore my parents. Dad's in heaven. Mom is still, doing wonderfully at 97, but there wasn't a lot of humor, Greek and Italian.
Oh,
I mean, maybe not typically Italian, but the Greek, I won't go there, but it's more serious, my family anyway.
It's extremely interesting because they're both, like I always say, if I was a horse at a horse race, I'd go for top dollar because I'm 100% Irish. But then whoever bought me would really get screwed because honestly, I have no athletic talent. So they'd be like, hey, I bought this thoroughbred, but she can't run. But anyway, so my father was 100% Irish, my mother was 100%, but two completely different families, two great families. My father's family was hilarious. There was 11 of them. They told stories. As each boy, male chauvinist though, got to be the oldest, they would get the room. Everybody else lived in one room with a sheet between the girls and the boys.
In Ireland or here?
In Syracuse. Oh, the boys always got the room. My mom's family, my grandfather did very well. He always wore suits and they were very proper and they didn't want people to think that they were shanty. So they used to call it the Dr. Hyde and what is that?
Jekyll and Hyde? No.
Jekyll and Hyde. I just lost. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde wedding because my mother was kind of from this, as they say, lace curtain Irish. Oh. And she said when she went to my father's house, she said, no one stopped talking. And she couldn't believe it. They were so funny. And she said, like, basically her life went from like black and white to Technicolor. Mm-hmm. Then when my father went to my mother's home, which was very, great humor, but very in control. They'd also suffered terribly because they'd lost their eldest son, who was a hero in World War II. He did 50 missions, volunteered for 51st, and was shot down. He was like an unbelievable guy. So they lived with this terrible loss of this hero of a son. It's a crazy story. He was like the only Irish Catholic that went to Deerfield. He was captain of hockey, football, lacrosse, president of his class. They lost him and it killed them. So my mother then meets my father 10 years later, which was odd in those days. She didn't get married until she was older. Either did I. So anyway, it was the meeting of two Irish families and the hilarious humor. My mother was very funny too, but more dignified. She'd say to us, "Oh my God, you kids, I've lost all my refinements because of your father."
But it seems like they were a perfect complement. They needed what each other had, right? What a gift.
And when I got on Saturday Night Live, my parents were my cheerleaders, but they were also realistic. Like I used to call them from New York and I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, what am I going to do?" And my dad would be like, "Why don't you come home and start a dinner theater?" And I was like, "No, Dad, that's not happening. I'm doing this." And my mother's like, "You do it, Siobhan. Cream rises to the top." But when I got on Saturday Night Live, Saturday Night Live is very nocturnal. And I found out at like 6 o'clock in the morning. And I called home. My mother said, "Oh, your father's golfing." So I called the little golf course up in Kansas. They're like, "Oh, Siobhan, it's your father's out on the 16th hole. Hang on. It's Siobhan. She's got big news. Send some." So they send, this guy out on the golf cart. My father comes in. He's like, "Yeah, Siobhan." I said, "Dad, guess what? I made it. They picked me. I'm on Saturday Night Live." He goes, "That's dynamite." He yells to everybody, "My daughter's on Saturday Night Live. All right, honey, I got to go finish my game. Love ya." And he hangs up.
But see, I adore that. There's something, let me brag, let me be happy, but I'm not going to go boast for 700 hours. And well, maybe he did, but there's something very balanced about that.
Yes. And
is that right?
Absolutely. It kept me real. You could walk out of places and there'd be cameras and my parent would be like, "Now, what's that movie you're in again?" Everybody's asking. But I didn't care. But in other words, you didn't think you were somebody just because you're an actress.
And I think that's the key. And that's what comes out when we watch you. I think what do you think? Let's talk about entertainment for a minute, then your movie. But I do want people to hear also how you said that what were you doing? You were at a law clerk firm. You were a law clerk or,
I was a receptionist.
And you were bored out of your mind.
Yes.
And you said, "Darn it, let me write a one-woman show," which I have to laugh at in that not all of us who are bored can write a one-woman show,
Well, someone suggested it. I will say that.
I know, but
I was in this improv group. So what I did was, because at the time, I had a really deep voice. My hair was really big. I don't know what I was, but casting people like, you're really going to start to work in your 30s and 40s. And, when you're in your early 20s, you're like, "Are you kidding me? What? That's like eons in age. There's no way." Anyway, now those days are long gone. Anyway, so I was like, "Okay, I'll do what he said." And so I just wrote all the characters that I would like to play if someone would possibly think of casting me. And the hilarious part is when the reviewers came, they said, "Oh, I love the theme of those characters, how you strung them together." Well, there was no theme. I just simply, I did like a Midwestern stand-up comic. I did a kid, I did a cheerleader. And they're like, "Oh, there was a theme." I'm like, "There was no theme. I just tried to get cast."
It was almost like your demo. Like, let me
That's
play.
Right. Yes.
In those days, no theme, but they saw a theme. But maybe there was a theme that you are so gifted at, you didn't even know.
Kathy, the funny thing is really I'm not the brightest bulb. When I wrote this movie, Rushed, Pete, the director, would say, Vibeke Musaya, who's this fabulous Danish director, "Siobhan Fallon Hogan, when we go from the A story to the B story to the C story, the transitions are so smooth." I was like, "What in God's name are you talking about?" I didn't even know there was an A story, a B story, and a C story. I was like, wait. Hey, listen, I'm not that deep, nor am I that much of a writer. I didn't even know.
What? Well, could this be, at one time I started to try to write a screenplay. Now I'm a nonfiction writer and it comes easily to me. Forbes, yep. Books, yes. Okay. This was the hard, I couldn't do it. I worked with a coach, but it's an idea of a past life image that it's not image story that I know that I've lived and I can't wait to get it out.
Absolutely do it.
Maybe I'll hire you as my coach. But
all these labels are overwhelming. Like when I first started writing the film, a friend of mine who's a writer, Patrick Clifton, who's a producer on the film. I've known him since my days at Catholic U. We look alike. We have red hair. He's from, it's crazy. Anyway, we ended up being roommates in LA. My father thought I was living in sin, but that wasn't happening. But we were just friends. So when I started writing, he said, don't judge it. Don't act like you want to sell it. Don't try to get the end. Just start writing it. And don't think if you write for 5 minutes one day, 3 hours the next day, just write. And I listened to him.
Can I ask you this? Then we're talking about Rush. Do you write it as a screenplay or do you write it as a story?
I write it as a short story, maybe 2 or 3 pages, and then I have it right next to me, and then I start writing.
That's it. That's how I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Because not knowing the convention of screenwriting, you get all mucked up in, wait, what's the scene here? Forget it. Write the story, right?
Absolutely. And you've seen enough movies that you know what I mean? And you're smart and you're a writer and you can do it.
All right. I'm doing it. I'm doing it, people. All right. Now let's talk about Rushed.
Yes.
I just want to say before we talk about it, how do I want to put it? There are very few movies that I feel you can, while the character might be very different from you, the lead, you relate so much and it gets into your heart and soul and you grieve with them. I don't feel that happens very much. And boy, did it happen. So can you tell us, first of all, we won't give too much away, but what made you want to write this and what made you go to the extreme for the character that you did?
Well, I have 3 kids, and I say kids now my daughter Bernadette's 26.
We can't say children anymore, can we?
I know, it's so weird. My daughter Bernadette's 26, as I was telling you before. She's a reporter for the New York Post. She gave me a run for her money when she was in college. My son Peter, he's an actor. He's in the film. He's in my next film as well. He gave me a run for my money. And my daughter Sinead is a junior at Virginia Tech. And I remember at one point saying to my husband, maybe our kids should sue us because we're both Irish and they're like wild Irish rovers. They're hyper Irish setters, and they like to go out on the town just the way I did and the way my husband did. The problem is with this day and age, we know too much with the cell phone. So we become like, obsessed. I'm not proud of being a helicopter mother, checking in too much. When they go off to college, we're weirdly still checking in. And then you combine that with saying, 2 a.m, hey, just make good choices, no hard liquor, just check in. With all the stories you've read about, with fraternity hazing, with not only fraternity hazing, but, and the girls too, like how crazy they go. And you start to worry. And then you read about people that live close to you. I live in New Jersey now. You read about Tim Piazza. You read about all these different horrific incidents. And you think, oh my gosh, if that's my kid, as I was laying in bed at 3 a.m, what would I do? And then you realize when you see the movie, as it's not just a story, a simple, straightforward story, it's a revenge thriller, that perhaps you don't want to encounter me in a dark alley. But, I've got that fire that if someone crosses me or one of my kids, I will not stop.
You really do have that.
Yes. When my daughter was in grammar school, there was a teacher that was the best teacher ever. And this is a Catholic school. And some terrible things happened. And I led a troop of 320 people over a bridge with signs.
Protesting what was happening.
Protesting to keep this teacher. And my daughter, Sinead, she was probably in 5th grade at the time. She's like, Mom, this is fun. I was like, now I know why bank robbers have a good time. This is like, this adrenaline is insane. I was leading 320 people and I said, now guys, whatever you do not hit the horns because mass is going on. Well, I had some boys that had graduated from the grammar school and they leaned on the horns and I was like, I felt like I was Bonnie and Clyde plus 320 people. So there's, I like to fight. It's interesting to fight the fight.
All right. Now I have a question that forgive me if 2,000 people have asked you this. And folks, let me just read you. I don't think I read you the blurb about Rush, but let me do it, huh? Just so you know what we're talking about. It's the story of Barbara O'Brien, which is Siobhan, an Irish Catholic mother living in upstate New York, who says her rosary daily, then swears profusely as she drives her kids to school. And her life is ruined when her son, Jimmy, a college freshman, is involved in a fraternity hazing incident. And Barbara resorts to extreme measures. And what I wrote is, it's riveting, relatable, and deeply moving. There we go. That's what it is. Now, let's dig in.
Well, I was going to tell you too, Robert Patrick, who, is from the Terminator and so many movies,
So
played the father
good.
and Walk the Line, brilliant actor. I've been friends with him forever. And when I sent him the script, he's like, Siobhan, I'm all in. And because it's an independent, I was like, are you all in for $1 or $1.50? But he said to me, because the movie is full of humor and full of faith, even though it's tragic, which is what carries the mom through. And I really do believe that it's, without patting myself on the back, but it may be more poignant or hit the mark because it's very hard to see very funny, horrible things happen to funny people. I was very good friends with Chris Farley on Saturday Night Live, and to see someone that brilliantly funny suffer because they're not used to not being funny, and they don't like it. It's uncomfortable. So it's very uncomfortable to see funny people in that position. But Robert Patrick said to me when he first got the script and read it, he said, I like it because the woman has a lot of faith, but she does swear her head off. So it's not icky. It's not like this icky, preachy movie. It's this mother who really does want to lead a good example, but she's really not doing that great of a job at it. She's like dropping the F-bombs. She's telling the daughters to pull their skirts down, or because they look like hookers, the Catholic school uniforms, the old trick, all the Catholic school girls know. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, a lot of it's a lot like my life, but you try to be a good person. You do your best at raising your kids, but you're sometimes not doing the best, even though you're considered a churchgoer.
Oh, it's so good. So this is the question I'm dying to know, having been an actress in my younger years and a singer and performer. You wrote this, so obviously it came from your soul. It's not, someone handing this to you. But when you play the grief moments, the rage moments, are you yourself thinking what you could do if this were your son? Or are you embodying this character that you created that happens to be very similar to you? Does that make sense?
I think the first. I think, first of all, you live with this script for so long. And you almost, when I'm writing it, I'm thinking, sometimes if you really got into it, it's like this cathartic feeling where you're thinking, my God, did that happen? Like, I think while I was writing it, I was even more on my kids, like almost imagining even worse. So yes,
you're living it in your mind, in your heart.
Right. And I am, my training as an actress is the Meisner Technique, which is doing what they call as ifs. So if you're in a scene and it's about a robbery, you're like, I can't imagine robbing this person. But say you've ever been in someone's car and you're like, oh my gosh, if I don't take the 75 cents and put it in this parking meter right now, I'm going to get a ticket. And you're like, oh, I'll pay them back later. So, what I mean? That's a really bad example, actually.
It's like method acting. Is that it?
You substitute in your life. Yes. So yes, it's very much like how you'd feel. So therefore, the hospital scene is a killer.
Oh, I barely made
it. And the car ride with the husband is a killer.
The car ride with the husband.
Yeah.
Why was that a killer for you?
Because you think.
Oh, driving to the school.
When you think, I don't know if my kid is dead or alive.
And of course I remember that you said nothing. You both, and I remember that. That's what we would do. I don't think we'd be chattering up a storm.
Absolutely.
Your eyes were showing that you were thinking all of, it's heartbreakingly difficult. I called my son immediately.
Oh, you do. Yeah, that's the way you feel. And our editor, Sabina Miliani, she's French, and she's an atheist. And so we're the complete opposites, but we get along so well. I love her to death. She's editing my next film that I just finished too. And she's, being a big talker, she said to me, Siobhan, let me tell you something. Silence, so much more interesting on film than talk. And it's true. And I learned that from her. Thank God we did it in rushed. But for my next film, and it's a prison story, I'm like,
you're a prison guard, right?
I play a prison guard, and there's a guy in death row. And Robert Patrick, my pal, is in it again. He plays the warden. Dan Castellaneta, Homer Simpson's also in it. But you realize silent moments tell so much more than someone who's able to talk.
You're right. So right. But you have to, how would I put this? What was so chilling about that was the silence, I think, for me, put me into your body. In other words,
yes.
it wasn't just you were sitting there, obviously you're a great actress, but it was what was going on even in your eyes.
Yeah.
It made room for me to feel what you were feeling.
You're actually saying, like, you'd probably be a great director. You're actually saying what Vivica would say, which is allow the audience. Siobhan Fallon Hogan, allow the audience to get into your mind. Allow them. Stop. She'd go, cut. Don't speak. Don't speak, Siobhan Fallon Hogan. Lower your head. Lower your head. Let us see your eyes.
Was she instrumental in that car scene then?
Oh, very. You know, it's a great team, and I have the exact same team for the next film, Shelter, that we just finished, as Rushed. It's Vibeke Musaya from Denmark. I call it the international team of women. Sabine Emiliani, but we also have fabulous Matthias Schubert, our cinematographer, is unbelievable. Yeah,
same team, and we do have to shout out. It's Jake Weary who.
Oh, Jake Weary, fabulous.
I wanted to kill him. I had so much rage for this character.
Yeah, he plays the bad boy, frat boy, and my son Peter plays his best friend. And
that's your son.
That's my son
sitting next to him on the veranda,
right.
and
my daughter,
like, hey, I think you got to go help this kid.
That's
Wasn't
right.
he him?
Yeah, he's like, and then my daughter Sinead plays Jake's girlfriend, the blonde.
Oh, gorgeous!
Yeah.
And she seemed. I liked her. I'm like, what's she doing with him?
Exactly. She's
and
like
she
one of these
said
girls.
very few things, but I'm like, what the heck is she with this monster for?
Jerk. I know.
Oh, people, I'm sorry, I got lost in it. You have to see it. And I think if you're a mom of any age child,
yes,
you will feel so moved, I think.
Yes. And I think it's really important for kids going into college and college age kids to see it. And it's funny, the kids that really relate and will come to me and they'll say, are the people who are out of college? Like, whoa, I made it. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, it was bad. Yeah.
I did say to my son, oh, it was so bad. And he said, okay, Mom, calm down. We didn't go through that. However, I think, what would he say? I don't think there was terror, but I think when you're put through hazing experiences, I don't care what they are, eat a tablespoon of wasabi, will hold you upside, whatever they do. I think there is terror.
It's
don't you think?
Yeah, horrific. And I had the great honor of meeting two moms, Evelyn Piazza and Rayanne Groover, who have lost sons. And these are
in hazing experience.
Yeah. And these are two moms that had great lives, and just one day I always say to my kids, it takes one wrong move, and their lives were turned upside down. And like, oddly, and I met them after the movie, that their humor, they both have great senses of humor, but wow, the suffering. And you just don't want to do that to your parents or your families or your friends or yourself.
It's moving. It's so moving, and it makes you think. And I know you're a spiritual individual. I actually believe that we signed up for this life. Not every little piece of it, but I think our soul, I know people, I'm going to hear from you about this, but I believe our overarching soul has an idea. So what? Why do I say that? I don't think we came here on this planet to simply skip along through a garden of no challenges and no pain. I don't think that's what we're here about.
Right.
But what does that mean? It means when terrible trauma hits, I think we have to hang on to something other than I want to die. Do you think so?
Yeah, absolutely. And these women are such a great example. I mean, they go around to colleges and they talk to kids, and it's not like they want to get rid of the institution of fraternities. They just want people to and to be kind, good people, and recognize that kind of hazing is just wrong. And do you want to? You got to think. And kids in their 20s and teens, sometimes they're just following the cool guy or the cool girl. And
a million young men can go through drinking that much or imbibing whatever and doing things and be okay at the end, but one out of not even a million, less than that, won't be. So we have to, we can't have so much pressure that, part of what your film talks about, I've studied patriarchal societies and
Right.
interviewed, for instance, Mark Green, who talks about man box culture. What is healthy masculinity and what is not?
Right. Right.
And I cried on the podcast because he talks about research that colleagues have done where they've talked to, say, 1,000 5-year-old boys about
Right.
what's being a boy, what is it? And they all say the same thing. I'm going to swear a little. Don't be a pussy. Don't cry. Don't have girls who are friends. Never show your emotions.
Yeah.
And he says, and I literally cry, this is what men deal with in a patriarchal world. Those parameters mean you're not connected as a human being to other human beings.
Yeah. It's funny though. I mean, that when I went to graduate school and you study theater, and there's a recurring theme in a lot of the great American plays, Eugene O'Neill, especially, that women are very attracted to that kind of man. And actually, I will say that's the kind of guy that I've always liked. My husband's a real guy's guy who played rugby. And when I went to cast the role in Rushed, I was like, who's a real guy's guy? Who's a great guy? And I'm like, Robert Patrick. I mean, this guy's a great patriot. He's great to the vets. He's an unbelievable guy. I mean, you could be a guy's guy and still be a great guy.
Absolutely.
Or you can be more of a gentler kind of guy and be a great guy. It takes all kinds.
It does.
You know what I'm saying? So
and oh, sorry, go ahead.
I said, I'm all for like being a guy that's tough as nails and a real cowboy or a real gunslinger, or if that's your thing, but be a good person.
Yeah. And even your scenes with him in bed, laying there talking, he's reaching over, like he knows you're a neurotic.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. He's like, there she goes. All right. It's all right. Exactly. He's connected to you.
Yeah.
And you can see that.
I will tell you, speaking on that, and I'm jumping ahead, but the film that I wrote that's coming out next year, Shelter in Solitude, is talking about being a singer. I play a wannabe country singer, and she's single and she's kind of living in the past, and she sang in Nashville once, and so she has a bar and she loves to sing at the bar, and then COVID shuts it down and her whole life has no purpose, and she starts to drink too much, and Robert Patrick plays my brother, and he's the warden. And anyway, there's an opening to the jail. Why am I getting to this? Oh, because we had a line dancing scene in upstate New York, where I grew up in Casanova. So of course I know everybody, and I know who the line dancers are for my friends. And
you picked your friends?
Yeah. And I get my friend David, who is a choreographer and in the theater to be the choreographer. And in come these tough guys in cowboy hats, wearing their line dancing stuff. And we had this rehearsal. And afterwards he said to me, oh my God, Siobhan, I feel like I was a little prejudiced against how they were going to be. I thought they were going to be a bunch of macho jerks and that they were going to be real.
Like, I know how to do it. I don't need your teaching, that kind of thing.
Real macho men assholes. Pardon my language. And so he's like, they were such unbelievable guys. But I think now we're coming to this great point where you can be a gentle guy or a mild guy. You can be a tough guy, but let's meet in the middle and just be good people,
I love it. I love it. Yes, we're not saying don't be feminine, don't be masculine. We're saying be a person from the heart. Right. That's it. That's right. And that looks like a million different things.
Exactly.
I love it. All right, few more minutes with you. We got into but didn't dive in. I'm dying to know what you think. Back to that issue that I think people would look at you and say, I want to be Siobhan. I just want this life. I want it.
Here's the deal.
What is it? What is it to be you that people don't understand about the entertainment world?
Well, I always tell young people this, people be like, oh my gosh, you work all the time. I mean, there are definitely, because it appears that way as you see a film, but there might be 4 months that go in between. The reason why I wrote so many one-woman shows over the years was, and then I would always get films. It's almost like dating. My mother used to say, start dating a few guys, and then another guy will see you out to dinner, and then that guy will ask you out. So it's like work begets work. So when I would do the one-woman shows, then suddenly I'd get a movie. But there were dry periods where you think it's all over. And I have worked with, I worked with Lauren Bacall with Lars von. I did a lot of movies in Denmark with Lars von Trier. They co-produced the movie with me, Rushed. And I remember Lauren Bacall was 82 years old. We're walking up a ramp. We had about 2 days left on the film. She said, Siobhan, do you have anything lined up after this?
Just like her.
I said, no. We became great friends. Do you? No. Do you think you and I will ever work again? I mean, she was 82 years old. Then I worked with.
But she's totally kidding. She was totally kidding. No,
No, she's 100% serious, because you do feel like,
yeah.
Every time I'd finish a long film or something, I'd say, I definitely need, I have to be with my kids more. And I would always bring my kids, by the way. I was like a lunatic. My kids were always, if I went away, they came to Australia, they came to Denmark, they saw the world and drove me out of my mind. But I put them in every movie I could. But we were always have this feeling like, I need a couple months off. And then you get that couple months, you'd be like, oh no, and be careful what you wish for. I put it up, like, people believe in the universe, like, oops, sorry, I take that back. I do not want time off.
Oh my God, I'm really living this. I
remember one time I papered my shelves, and I'm not domestic at all, and there was like bubbles everywhere, and I was like, oh, and I couldn't get the tape off the shelves or the paper, and I was like, I'm so undomesticated. I make meals. My husband would be like, do you mind if we order out? Anyway, so the bottom line is, look, and now I'm 60 years old, and I'm like,
wow, you look,
I feel like I've raised my
21.
kids. I feel like a kid again. I'm like, now I can do all these movies, not have to worry. Now I can create. And I have friends who are like, well, I'm retired now. Not that there's anything wrong with being retired. I think it's great. But we got to keep living and keep kicking it around. You know what I mean?
That's it.
But I've been so darn lucky. I mean, I've met a ton of great people, great directors, really believe what goes around comes around. There's people now, and I feel like if someone bonked me on the head and I got amnesia, I used to say I think I was 24. Now I think I'd be about 35. I don't feel, because
isn't it crazy? I'm 61. You said you're 60. What is that number? I
don't
you
know.
don't look it. You don't feel it. I don't
know. I
don't get it.
No, but I do think that people will turn up. Like Jake Weary was 19 when I worked with him, and then we worked again 10 years later. J.J. Warren, who plays my son in the movie, I worked when he was 9 years old. I didn't even remember it. He's like, Siobhan. It's like, yeah. And he's like, I worked with you when I was 9. I was like, we did? Anyway, but
he was amazing and beautiful.
It's amazing that you just treat people great, and you'll eventually, you all kind of comes around. So you have to keep the good mojo flowing.
I love it. And that's where I want to end. One more thing. I interviewed Christian Bush on his book, Serendipity, and that there is dumb luck that, you were born into the family or maybe your soul did have something to do with it, but you know what I mean? Or you grew up in Syracuse, which gave you, or upstate New York, which gave you a whole new lens. Then Absolutely. There's luck that you make.
Absolutely.
And when you say you're lucky, I believe you are, but much more, I believe you have made your luck. Can you talk about that for people listening who want to write that screenplay, who want to write that book, who want to sing in the band, and they're like, I can't. Talk about how you make your luck, will you? And then we'll.
Okay, I have a couple things to say about that. Number one is you have to work your tail off. You can't give up. And a lot of people are going to tell you, you can't do that. You can't do that. When I was in college, I remember people like, you can't be an actress. People have been taking lessons and voice lessons. And in my mind, I was like, you got to keep that inner voice saying, I think I can, I think I can, I think I know I can, I know I can, I will, I will, I will. While you pray to back it up, you got to get the big guy to back you up, or whoever you believe in. And you just keep plugging away. You don't take no for an answer, and believe in yourself, because you can do whatever you want. My father said, Lars von Trier. My first movie in Denmark was it was 20 years ago. Speaking of that, I flew out of Denmark and I looked down and I thought, I will be back here. I didn't know how. And I thought, I shall return. I've done 3 movies with him. Then I did the Cannes Film Festival. And he said to me, will you please walk with me down the red carpet? I get so nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, this is great.
I could cry.
Then I sent the movie to them and they're like, we'd love to do it. Now, I want to tell you one other interesting story. My father always wanted me to be a country singer. I was like, Dad, I don't have a good enough voice.
Irish country
singer. Yes, you do. Cut to, I write this movie about being a wannabe country singer. Where was I last month? In Nashville. Recording. And I'm in a sound booth, okay? My son's a music supervisor on the film. He's like really into music and got me all the rappers, all like Fat Nick and all those guys for the last movie. That's why the music was so good for Rush. I'm in the sound booth. I have no idea my son is snuck in there. I am singing up close to the mic and I'm going, rocking it. Going, oh, I'm like, I grew up on UPenn, by the time I turned, pretending like I'm Patsy Cline and June Carter, and my son filmed me, and I'm like,
oh, this we've got to see. You got to put that on YouTube.
Like, so you can, I mean, how in God's name am I singing in a sound booth in Nashville? because I literally almost pictured it to the point, well, not to the point, to the point that I did it. So you can do whatever you want.
You can. But I'm going to add one thing, given that I'm a career and leadership coach, and you need bravery and you need power. That's my last book.
Absolutely.
You need the bravery to go, I don't know if I'm going to fail like an ass, but I'm doing it. But you also need power, internal and external power. And it comes from, can I just say this? When people said, what do you mean you're going to be an actress? You were an actress from age 3.
Yes,
so it isn't, I'm an accountant. I've never acted in a day in my life. Let me be an actress. Or I want to be a singer in the band. It takes power to get up in front of an audience and believe you can command their attention. So that's bravery and power as well as belief. Would you agree or push back?
I agree 150,000%. I'm going to tell you something else. You have to have humility. I'm going to give you an example. You see this little card I have? It's my movie on a card. And then it says on it, see it on Apple, Amazon, iTunes, wherever. I carry this with me. And I have tons of them in my purse. If I see a group of kids, I go, hey kids, what are you doing? I go, do you like movies? Here you go. I give them my card. My kids are like, mom, no. I go, shut up. I figure if one of those kids watches and tells 5 other people, if I go out to dinner, I say, here's my card. If I book an airline plane, ticket, I go, they're like, hi, this is United Airlines. Can I help you? And I go, yes, I've been on hold for an hour and a half. Before we start, where are you? They're like, hey, Miami. I go, do you like movies? Yes. Okay, listen, before we start, I wrote this movie called Rushed with an ED. Now I go, you have to watch it. You go, you're going to love it. And you can Facebook me, we'll talk about it. I mean, you have to not be, meanwhile, people are like, can I have your autograph? And I'm like, okay, yes, but let me.
But will you watch my movie first?
My sister's like, Siobhan, you can't be peddling your goods and acting like, and expecting people to think you're, somebody. I go, I don't care if anybody thinks I'm somebody. I want to get my material out there, and I don't believe in somebody. When I taught English as
I don't believe in somebody. What does that mean? I don't believe in needing to be somebody.
I'm like somebody because I'm on TV and movies. There's people, nurses and teachers are a lot more important than I am. I'm just pretending I'm somebody else for a living and not and writing about it. So when I taught English as a second language in LA, I remember I said to my students, and they were all from South America, and they were like 18 to like 25, because Ronald Reagan had this program that you could get money if you learned English, but whatever. Yeah. So I was teaching, and I was down to the end for the Carol Burnett show, and I was like a little bit gloating, and I said, I said, guys, ladies, I will not be here tomorrow. I am down to the end for the Carol Burnett show. Up goes a hand. Teacher, who is Carol Burnett? And I was like, you know what? I'm an idiot. When we're pushing up the daisies, no one knows who is who did what. Just be a nice person, do what you want, but don't be going around bragging about yourself to your students. Or another time I was at a party, and this woman says to me, how do I know you? And I was like, Al, I start naming TV shows and like films like an idiot. And she's like, oh, what'd you do? She goes, what'd you do 4th of July? I go, is it my Uncle Mickey's party? She goes, oh yeah, I met you there. And I go, oh, I'm going to throw up. I'm so gross. I will never brag about myself again. It's disgusting.
You've had times where you get a little slap from the universe. Me too.
Where you think you're somebody, you're like,
oh, don't do that. And as you're doing it, it feels gross, doesn't it? It's like, what am I doing here? Take that back.
Ew, I'm so gross. What just happened? I thought I was somebody for about 30 seconds.
Who's Carol Black? Who are you? Yeah, it was Uncle Mickey's party. Oh my God. On that note, I don't want to let you go. I'm coming to your house.
I just want to say, Kathy, people, I really want to say this. Please support independent films and independent filmmakers, because so much great material comes out. And please, you can watch the movie on Amazon, Apple, iTunes, Redbox, Vudu, and on demand. And if you like it, please review it, because it helps us immensely. And then the next person and the next person, and the next person, and next thing you know, we got ourselves a big audience. We can do the next one.
Oh, I love it. People, we mean it. And you will see this on LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever I post it. We would so love your thoughts about it. You heard how it moved me. We'd love to hear. And Siobhan's the kind of person that she's going to retweet it or comment, or, I know you're crazy busy off to France, but we would be so appreciative. And where do they read more about you? Where can they dig into your career? Where do we send people?
they can go to IMDb, or they can just put my name in, and there's a lot of different articles that were done on the movie. And yeah, I mean, Film Threat, there's a fabulous review. There's a ton. Oh, I know what they do. Go to Rotten Tomatoes.
We got that.
We have like 90, I don't know what percent. And Kath, it's so
Wow.
funny. Like you say, I can tweet it. I don't know what I'm doing on social media. My son does all that for
He
me.
did it?
For
I thought it was
Facebook,
you writing it for me today.
Facebook, I know how to do it. No, I wrote back to you because I said, give me that. I don't want to write something weird and not sound like me. But I'm not very good at retweeting.
I see. Well, you did beautifully on mine.
Listen,
thank you for that.
I am so grateful to you, and thank you so much for helping us get the word out. And I hope I talk to you next year after the next one comes out.
Please come back on. Please do. And
You're the best.
blessings to you. All best wishes.
Yeah.
All right, people. I hope you're inspired. Do it. But do it based in realism that you got work to do. Let's face it. You got work to do. And don't brag. That's what be humble, right? But not too humble. Sometimes women are so, I'm not a fan of humility. I'm a fan of realistic understanding of what we're on the planet for, and not getting too big for your britches, pushing opportunities away, thinking we're so perfect.
Exactly.
All right.
Don't let anyone tell you no, because you can do whatever you want and you can do it great.
I love it. Thank you. Come back again after your next film. All right, everyone. I hope you're inspired. We love to hear from you. Bye,
Thanks
everyone.
Kathy.
Thank you. Hello, Kathy here, and thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. I hope you loved it. One quick thing I'd love to share before you go is about my new digital training course, The Most Powerful You, which is the companion to my book, The Most Powerful You, 7 Bravery Boosting Paths to Career Bliss. I'm so thrilled that recently a division of the largest intergovernmental agency in the world sponsored several memberships to the Most Powerful You course for members of their staff. And what a powerful move that is in terms of bringing real-world effective training to both men and women to help them thrive in the workforce. Coaching so many people as I do each year, I see that leadership and career growth training programs today are so often not effective because they simply don't go deep enough to address what really holds us back from thriving, believing in ourselves, understanding our talents and abilities, communicating effectively, asking for what we need and deserve, networking to build a great support community, and making the impact we long to. So I'd love to make an ask of you, and that is to briefly take a look at what I'm teaching in the Most Powerful You course. And you can find that at mostpowerfulyou.com. And if you feel that the content about the 7 damaging power gaps and how to close those for good would be helpful for you and people at your organization, I hope you'll ask your supervisors, HR leaders, and diversity and inclusion managers to sponsor memberships of this course for you and other staff so that you can all thrive at the highest level in your roles and organizations. Thank you so much. And here's to you becoming the most powerful you.